Craig Sager was a successful and conspicuous sports reporter who died after a long-fought public battle with leukemia. Known for his stylistic outfits, bright personality, and profound conversational engagements and interviews, he was praised for having the ability to deliver hard-hitting and thoughtful questions that did not aggravate subjects. Sager's premature loss was devastating to many as he connected with athletes, coaches, fans, sports personnel, and fellow colleagues during his storied career, which lasted over 40 years. Craig Sager was born Craig Graham Sager on June 29, 1951, in Batavia, Illinois, a suburban neighborhood of Chicago, the largest city in Illinois. His father was an advertising and public relations executive, while his mother took passion in golf and flying. He reportedly gained his outgoing personality from his mother. Sager attended Batavia High School, where he played for the basketball team in his junior and senior years at the school. It was in high school where the origin of his eccentric dress habits began. Sager stated that for his senior pictures, he was instructed to wear a typical blue or black blazer for the photo. Instead, Sager donned an electric blue Nehru jacket inspired by the band The Monkees in defiance. He graduated from Batavia High School in 1969. Sager subsequently enrolled in Northwestern University to receive further education. Sager majored in speech and pursued walk-on athlete roles on the baseball, basketball, and football teams. Sager, during his college tenure, was on the cheerleading squad and was the football team's mascot. The mascot's name was Willie the Wildcat. He graduated from Northwestern University with a bachelor degree in speech in 1973. Out of college, he worked odd jobs, such as a sailing instructor and a bouncer. At the age of 21, he was hired at his first reported job at a news station, the station WXLT, currently operating under the name WWSB Channel 40, in 1972, earning a salary of merely $95 a week. At the age of 22, he was hired as a weatherman for his first television reporting job for a Tampa news station. Sager stated that he arrived at the interview for this position wearing a blue, yellow, and white seersucker suit and got the job. His employer stated that he couldn't wear suits like that at the time since cameras couldn't focus on it. Sager later in his life would own over 100 unique eye-catching suits. In 1974, he was hired at the Florida radio station WSPB in Sarasota to the position of news director. He had a stint around that time at another station in Florida in addition to WXLT, the news station WTSP-TV. He would work alongside Christine Chubbuck, another news reporter who became notorious for her ultimately successful suicide attempt by shooting herself on air while serving as an anchor for WXLT. A young Sager gained recognition when he interviewed Atlanta Braves outfielder Hank Aaron when he hit his historic 715th home run to surpass Babe Ruth in the all-time home run rankings in Major League Baseball on April 8, 1974. Sager stated that he was certain that Aaron would hit the record-breaking home run in that game against the Los Angeles Dodgers. He traveled up to Atlanta to witness the event in person. His boss reportedly informed him that he could go there, but he had to return to Florida by tomorrow, or he would be fired. He reported the event, giving play-by-play commentary from the photographers well as the stadium's press box was full with other fellow reporters. When he hit the home run in the fourth inning of this game, Sager was the first person to interview him. Craig Sager would subsequently serve as the sports director at the nearby Fort Myers, Florida, news station Wink TV for around 4 years during the 1970s. Sager stated that his position at the Fort Myers news station was the position that paved the way for his successful career as a sports reporter. In 1978, Sager moved west from Fort Myers to Kansas City, Missouri, to begin a new job at the Kansas City news station KMBC Channel 9. In Kansas, he would meet his first wife, Lisa Gebel, as well as begin establishing a positive reputation in his field that was backed by his evident work ethic. Sager, while at Channel 9, would work on telethons and fundraisers alongside the station's executive news producer, Jerry Plants. The fundraisers notably benefited the Kansas City chapter of the Leukemia Society. Sager would build relationships with people while reporting at the training camp for the Kansas City Royals. In 1979, Sager bailed out entertainer Morgana Roberts, known by the stage name Morgana the Kissing Bandit, after she was arrested for running on the baseball field during the 1979 MLB All-Star Game. Roberts gave Sager a bra as a token of appreciation for bailing her out. Sager would also report for Kansas City Kings as a play-by-play commentator and for the Kansas City Chiefs during their preseason games. He engaged to Lisa Gebel on August 14, 1980, and would marry her on November 1 of the same year. The newlywed couple would not go on a honeymoon. After doing freelance reporting work on the 1980 MLB postseason in which the Kansas City Royals made it to the World Series, ultimately losing to the Philadelphia Phillies, Sager would transition to work at a larger network in 1981. This network was a relatively new company called the Cable News Network, better known by its initials CNN. Sager was hired to work in the sports division of the network. He moved to Atlanta, Georgia, to start his new job. His wife Lisa also worked at CNN as an intern coordinator for approximately 5 years. His hiring at CNN would begin a 35-year employment at Turner Broadcasting-owned companies that lasted until his death. During his stint at CNN, he would co-anchor CNN Sports Tonight and would host the sports program College Football Scoreboard from 1982 to 1985. While covering the 1985 World Series between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Kansas City Royals, Lisa was pregnant with her and Craig's first child, Casey. Lisa and Craig were able to attend every game of the championship series, going back and forth between St. Louis and Kansas City via Interstate Highway 70. The Kansas City Royals would end up winning the World Series in 7 games. Lisa would give birth to a total of 3 children during their marriage, 2 daughters named Casey and Krista, respectively, and a son named Craig Jr. Sager would receive a Cable Ace Award in the year 1985 for his reporting. He would work for CNN for 5 more years, transitioning to TNT in 1990. He would work reporting for the National Football League's pregame, halftime, and postgame programs for the network. This arrangement would continue until 1997. The same year, Sager would be on coverage duty for the 1990 World Cup, which was hosted in Rome, Italy. In 1991, he became a sideline reporter for the network. He would continue to garner more and more notoriety working as a sideline reporter in multiple sports domestically and internationally. These arrays of sports include sports such as golf, tennis, basketball, baseball, football, and soccer. Sager most prominently served as an NBA sideline reporter for Turner Sports for 26 years. He covered both professional and collegiate-level sports. This widespread reporting influence made him a recognizable figure in the sports world, more specifically in the basketball world. In 1993, Sager prevented Dennis Rodman, NBA player for the Detroit Pistons, from taking his life during a depressive time in his life. Sager reportedly tracked down Rodman on the 2nd floor of a strip club in Detroit, Michigan, where he talked Rodman out of shooting himself with a shotgun. Sager would report for the Ted Turner-founded Goodwill Games, which was an international competition created in response to the turbulent affairs of the Olympics. In 2001, he would divorce his first wife, Lisa, going on to marry Stacy Sager, a Chicago native who was a dancer for the Chicago Bulls and 21 years younger than Sager. Stacy and Craig would have 2 children together, a son named Ryan and a daughter named Riley. Wearing his collection of unique suits, Sager gained both negative attention in concurrence with positive attention. At the 2001 NBA All-Star Game, Sager wore a double silk silver Versace suit, which NBA Commissioner David Stern demanded him to change due to his suit allegedly reflecting the lights in the stadium. Sager, in the face of insults and ridicule for his suits, took it in strides, often reacting lightheartedly and taking fun in it. Over the years, NBA coaches, fans, and players would mock him. Notable examples include Phil Jackson.
You know, I didn't recognize you right away. I thought you were the good humor ice cream man at first, standing over here on the sideline.
Chris Paul.
You got bad blood. Yeah, I know, right? It's a nice suit you got on there. Easter passed, though. Easter already went by.
Greg Popovich, Charles Barkley, and Kevin Garnett. Charles Barkley called Sager a pimp for wearing his outfits, while Kevin Garnett once told him to burn his outfit at the end of an interview in February 2009.
You should hire anybody who's qualified to do a job. Black, white, Hispanic, Latin, Jewish, whatever. But when y'all start hiring pimps to do interviews during the game,
you take this outfit home and you burn it. We don't want to see this. I know you don't double back with outfits. I've never seen you in an outfit twice, but you take this right here. I said, you burn it.
It's not any part I can keep?
No.
Nothing.
Sager had a long-term friendly feud with San Antonio Spurs head coach Greg Popovich. The two had clashing personalities, which reportedly led to accidental comedy routines developing during their interviews.
Can you repeat that? How have you turned LeBron James into a perimeter player tonight, keeping him out of the paint?
I have no clue.
Sager, after his stint covering American football in the 1990s, he covered the 1999 qualifying basketball tournament of the Americas in San Juan, Puerto Rico. He would cover the 2000 Olympic basketball matches in Hawaii and Japan the following year and the 2002 FIBA World Basketball Championship. In the 2000s, he started working for TBS, another Turner-affiliated network, notably covering the MLB postseason for the network between 2007 and 2013. He had also covered Big 12 college football on the network previously between 2002 and 2006. In 2011, he would begin covering the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Championship as a sideline reporter. He would continue this role until the significant decline of his health. Sager was known to have a significant habit of consuming alcohol, once drinking 26 beers during an 18-hole golf game with some friends. Despite the enormous intake of alcohol, he reportedly still convincingly beat everyone he competed against, according to sportscaster, writer, and friend of Sager, Jason Jackson, who was there. Sager was known to enjoy running for exercise to balance out his health and well-being. He would reportedly eat a health-conscious diet in combination with this. On April 9, 2014, Sager began experiencing significant fatigue, which he initially didn't take seriously. Sager then experienced shortness of breath when flying to Anderson, Indiana, to deliver a speech at the local high school the same day. On April 10, 2014, Sager flew to Dallas, Texas, to provide coverage for a Spurs vs Mavericks match, where the symptoms persisted. Before attending the game, which was held at approximately 8 p.m. that night, Sager's shortness of breath prevented him from completing a standard run that morning. He would uncharacteristically take a nap after arriving at his hotel from a TNT production meeting on the morning of April 10. After the Spurs vs Mavericks game, Sager's exhaustion continued as he conducted post-game interviews. Sager then visited the physician for the Dallas Mavericks, Dr. Tarek O. Sorial, who Sager had a pre-existing 12-year relationship with. Sorial had once performed knee surgery on Sager to repair cartilage damage in his knee. Sorial had advised Sager to visit the hospital. When Sager went to the hospital, it was uncovered that Sager had very low hemoglobin, a protein that is responsible for transporting oxygen via the red blood cells to the lungs and other bodily tissues. Red blood cells are known for containing the majority of the body's iron. The low hemoglobin levels explained Sager's symptoms of severe fatigue and shortness in breath. The low hemoglobin levels were alarming as Sager had not lost any significant amount of blood or fluids during this time. Doctors told Sager that his revealed low blood work was life-threatening. Sager was given a blood transfusion and was slated to receive further testing. Sager spent the following 3 days in Dallas receiving medical tests, flying back to Atlanta to receive a couple of bone marrow biopsies. He would subsequently be diagnosed with adult acute myeloid leukemia, a rare and aggressive form of cancer that affects the bone marrow and blood cells. Abnormal mutated cells are produced in the bone marrow, which is responsible for the development of white blood cells. It was revealed that Sager had received an initial diagnosis that he did not have cancer, but when he went to receive further medical opinions from different doctors, it was then revealed that he had leukemia.
They said, well, it doesn't look like you have leukemia. I said, great, but we don't know what it is. I said, he came back an hour and a half later and said they'd misread the diagnosis and that I had leukemia.
His diagnosis was publicly revealed the following week, with Craig Sager's son, Craig Jr., reporting the news of the diagnosis on Twitter that week. Craig Jr. stated that his father was to begin a 3 to 4 week regime of chemotherapy treatment on April 18, 2014. Sager would be subjected to relative solitude and special ventilators in the hospital to prevent pathogens from infecting Sager. Sager would receive frequent red blood cell transfusions. Craig Sager would be unable to work temporarily due to his course of cancer treatment, leading to his son Craig Jr. remarkably covering in his place for Game 1 of the Spurs vs Mavericks Western Conference of the NBA playoffs, surprising his father, who was not prudent of his decision until it was broadcast. The game took place on April 20, 2014, and Craig Jr. interviewed Spurs coach Greg Popovich, who complimented Craig Jr. for filling in, but wished for a recovery in return of his father, delivering words of encouragement to Craig Sr. The interview was initially scheduled to be pre-recorded, but Popovich had insisted that it be done during the game to be more similar to Sager Sr. and Popovich's normal interviews. Many NBA players, coaches, and other personnel had expressed concern and had sent get-well messages to Craig Sager during his chemotherapy treatment. This included Tom Thibodeau providing a statement, Bradley Beal and Taj Gibson donning #GetWellSager posters. Members of TNT wished Sager to have a successful recovery, with senior producer Chris Carmody putting together a video of dedication for Sager. Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny Smith, and Ernie Johnson of TNT's Inside the NBA wore clothing similar to Sager in honor of him.
In honor of our buddy Craig Sager, who is ill. Tonight's starting studio lineup will be wearing special Craig Sager throwback uniforms.
During his hospitalization, Sager was visited and given gifts by many during his treatment, including Ernie Johnson, who had battled non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in the 2000s. Johnson had known Sager since the early 1980s. Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith visited Sager in the hospital in May 2014, attempting to bring up Sager's spirits by joking with him. Kevin Garnett sent Sager a floral arrangement, and Los Angeles Clippers head coach Doc Rivers sent Sager a fruit basket. By August of 2014, Sager received over 250 cards and letters from fans and people working around the NBA. Sager would write thank you letters to those who expressed support for him. On May 6, 2014, Craig Sager Jr. underwent a blood test to determine if he would be a suitable donor for a bone marrow transplant, which was something essential in his recovery from leukemia. Sager Jr. revealed that his physicians had assessed that he had low odds, with a 2% chance that he would be a full match based on 6 testing indicators. Craig Sager Sr. was reportedly released from hospital care temporarily on May 9, 2014, after finishing his first bout of chemotherapy. When the result of the test returned 10 days later, Sager Jr. passed all 6 testing indicators. The bone marrow transplant between the son and father was scheduled to take place on July 3, 2014. Sager Jr. underwent extensive blood work before the surgery to ensure a successful surgery. The surgery was successfully completed without complications, with Sager Jr. stating on Twitter that 1.5 liters of bone marrow was transplanted to his father. After the stem cell bone marrow transplant, Sager was prescribed medications to suppress his immune system so his body would accept the foreign bone marrow. Sager was disclosed to be taking the specific immune-suppressing drug tacrolimus. Sager would contract pneumonia a couple of weeks after the bone marrow transplant, ultimately successfully recovering from the illness. He would still have to undergo weeks of chemotherapy following the transplant, being able to return home to his family on August 15, 2014. His condition began noticeably improving. He had lost significant amounts of weight during his chemotherapy treatment, losing over 50 pounds. For the next 93 days after being released, Sager would receive various forms of outpatient treatment. He wouldn't be declared physically well enough to return to work until March 1, 2015. His weight had increased up to 184 pounds around this time. He would be given no travel or work restrictions, but he would be required to wear a face mask on planes and in airports as a precaution. He would also have to wash his hands frequently and stay away from individuals with a cold to prevent an infection. His first game to report on when he came back was a regular season match between the Chicago Bulls and the Oklahoma City Thunder on March 5, 2015. Sager had publicly stated that his cancer was totally in remission. Many former and current NBA players and other personnel welcomed back Craig Sager on social media, including LeBron James, Harrison Barnes, Jamal Crawford, Dwayne Wade, Paul Millsap, Ricky Rubio, Spencer Hawes, Mo Williams, Isaiah Thomas, Jason Thompson, Reggie Jackson, and Kevin Love. Sager's work ethic included him showing up to the stadium hours prior to conversate with people at the stadium, which is what he did before this March game, showing up 3 hours early to Chicago's United Center. For the game, Sager donned a red, black, and gray plaid jacket with dark-colored sparkling Nike shoes. During a dead ball in the first quarter, Sager was honored in the stadium, being given a new jacket by Chicago Bulls mascot Benny the Bull. Sager, unfortunately, would not be working any games further as his leukemia came out of remission soon after he returned, forcing him to undergo another chemotherapy treatment cycle scheduled to last 100 days. Sager had kept a long-standing positive attitude towards all of his treatment, including the setbacks of remission, weight loss, and hair loss. He would receive months of chemotherapy, receiving some of his chemotherapy at Houston, Texas's MD Anderson Cancer Research Center. Sager would take time in between his treatments to venture out to watch the Houston Rockets play the Los Angeles Clippers in the Western Conference semifinals of the 2015 NBA playoffs. He was reportedly greeted by Doc Rivers upon the conclusion of pre-game media press conferences. On July 17, 2015, Sager would receive a second stem cell transplant from his son Craig Jr. Craig Jr. would confirm the transplant by posting a photo of his father receiving the transplant in his hospital bed the following day. Sager would continue to make public appearances to give updates about his recovery. He would make an appearance at Minute Maid Park before a Houston Astros vs. Los Angeles Dodgers game in August 2015, greeting his fellow Turner Sports colleagues working for TBS. In September 2015, Sager would make a television interview on the news station KPRC in Houston to give insights on his treatment and his mood during his second bout with the cancer. He expressed optimism about returning to reporting in the near future. He specifically highlighted his intentions of reporting for the NBA by the start of the 2015 to 2016 season and to report the 2016 Summer Olympics in Brazil's capital Rio de Janeiro. Prior to the upcoming NBA season beginning on October 27, 2015, it was reported that Sager would be returning to national television screens as a sideline reporter, with his first game to report on being at Oracle Arena in Oakland, California, for the season-opening matchup between the Golden State Warriors and New Orleans Pelicans. He notably interviewed Greg Popovich for the first time in over a year and a half during a Spurs vs. Grizzlies match on December 3, 2015. Popovich was joyed to see Sager back to interview him, stating, "I gotta honestly tell you that this is the first time I've enjoyed doing this ridiculous interview we're required to do, and it's because you're here and you're back with us. Welcome back, baby." Sager's cancer would unfortunately not be completely eradicated, as Sager revealed that his cancer had come out of remission in February 2016 during an interview on the HBO program, Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel, taken in March 2016. Sager stated that he was in uncharted waters in this phase of his cancer battle. Although he was given a prognosis of 6 months or less left to live, Sager would declare his intentions to still work, remaining confident that he would have a successful recovery. He would begin undergoing more treatments for his cancer, going to MD Anderson Cancer Research Center once again for treatment. Sager began a clinical trial of immunotherapy and chemotherapy in an attempt to put him in remission long enough to receive a third rare bone marrow transplant. As an outpatient, he would commute from hospitals during breaks from treatment to go work in personal venues, determined to stay active. He would routinely have his hemoglobin and platelet levels tested, being reported to require 2 blood transfusions every week. On one occasion, Sager dismissed his doctor's assessment of him having dangerously low platelet levels by stating that it doesn't surprise him and that he felt fine and felt good. He would continue wearing a facial mask and was required to thoroughly wash his hands to protect his immune system. He also began taking a regime of around 20 different pills. During his time in the hospital, he was reportedly visited by the current NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Sager would continue to report into the NBA playoffs that spring given his circumstances, covering the first-round matchup between the first-seed Cleveland Cavaliers and the 8th-seed Detroit Pistons. He would be given appreciation and wishes for a recovery by fans, players, and others when arriving at the Palace of Auburn Hills in Detroit for Game 3. In May 2016, Sager was awarded the Jimmy V Perseverance, which is an award given to a person in the sports world who overcomes great obstacles. Accepting the award, Sager stated, "Over the last 2 years, I've done everything in my power to live my life as normally as possible. But at times, you need support, and I'm so thankful to everyone who has been there for me." The announcement of Sager winning the award was made during Game 4 of the Western Conference NBA Finals between the Golden State Warriors and Oklahoma City Thunder. The ESPYs Awards, which was the award show that awarded the Jimmy V Award, was set to air on July 13, 2016. He would be given the award by the U.S. Vice President at the time, Joe Biden. In a memorable speech that Sager gave when accepting the award, he stated, "I will never give up, and I will never give in. I will continue to keep fighting, sucking the marrow out of life as life sucks the marrow out of me." The same month, Sager would be featured on the front page of Sports Illustrated, being profiled by lead NBA writer Lee Jenkins. Sager would be invited to throw out the ceremonial first pitch at a Chicago Cubs game versus the Los Angeles Dodgers at Wrigley Field on June 1, 2016. His first pitch was during a game event called Conquer Cancer Night. Sager wore a custom Chicago Cubs jersey with his name on the back. Sager would continue to work even further into the 2016 NBA playoffs, covering Game 6 of the NBA Finals between the Warriors and Cavaliers held on June 16, 2016. This was the first and last instance of Sager reporting for Turner during the NBA Finals. He would be paired with Doris Burke, another famed reporter, to perform sideline coverage. Sager would unfortunately be unable to make it to the 2016 Summer Olympics in Rio due to his battle with his leukemia. Kevin Durant, who was a member of the men's USA basketball team for those Olympics, stated in reaction to the news of Sager's absence, "We wish you were here, man. We're gonna try to win this gold for you, you know you're a part of our family." USA basketball teammate Carmelo Anthony stated, "Keep the faith, and we gonna do this for you." Sager would undergo a third bone marrow transplant in August 2016. Instead of his son, Sager would receive the transplant from an anonymous 20-year-old donor who was a perfect match. The surgery would be performed at MD Anderson Cancer Center, beginning at 11 a.m. that morning and lasting 10 hours. Sager stated that when being taken into the operation, "Okay, third time's the charm." A few days before the operation, his wife Stacy had caught a cold and was sent home as a precaution for Sager's health. In response, Charles Barkley decided that he was going to come to Houston from Phoenix, Arizona, on a flight to keep Sager company. The caveat was that Barkley was advised not to travel by his doctors due to undergoing a hip replacement operation recently. Barkley defied their advisory and declared it was an emergency that he visited Sager. Sager had expressed his intention after the transplant to attempt to return to reporting during the 2016-2017 NBA season in November 2016. On October 25, 2016, which was season opening day for the NBA, many paid tribute to Sager, who remained hospitalized. The Golden State Warriors for their season opening game against the Spurs gave out T-shirts to fans that had a design of Sager and said, "Sager Strong," on the back. TNT members the same day would distribute and wear a shirt in honor of Sager that copied that pattern of his suit that he wore when accepting the Jimmy V Award. The two shirts would be sold online, in which revenue made off of the shirts was to be given towards the Sager Strong Foundation, an organization specializing in funding research for cancers of the blood and raising awareness of these types of cancers. In addition to the shirts, people were wearing a limited edition Nike Air Force One pair of sneakers that were designed by Craig Sager himself. The sneakers would be auctioned off, with some of the proceedings made from the auction being sent to the Sager Strong Foundation. In November 2016, Sager's memoir, titled, "Living Out Loud: Sports, Cancer, and the Things Worth Fighting For," was published. It was written over the span of several months by Sager, along with Brian Curtis and Craig Jr. It documents Sager's life outlook in consideration with his cancer battle and the relationship Sager has with his son. The Brooklyn Nets would have a Craig Sager night for their December 1 match versus the Milwaukee Bucks at Barclays Center. Brooklyn Nets players, Milwaukee Bucks players, and reporters wore the Sager suit-esque shirts. Days before his death on December 13, 2016, Sager was inducted into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame. Craig Sager's 2-plus-year battle with leukemia would come to an end on December 15, 2016. He would succumb to the cancer, dying at the age of 65 in Atlanta. His death was announced publicly by Turner Sports. Sager, who was a memorable presence in the sports world, received numerous reactions in news of his death. Current and former NBA players such as LeBron James, Chris Paul, Stephen Curry, Dwayne Wade, Karl Anthony Towns, Kevin Durant, Dennis Rodman, Jeremy Lin, James Worthy, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson's father Michael Thompson, Kristaps Porzingis, Tristan Thompson, Kevin Garnett, Jay Williams, Glenn Robinson III, Scottie Pippen, Blake Griffin, Baron Davis, Kevin Love, Chris Webber, and many others paid tribute to Sager. Entire NBA teams, fellow journalists, reporters, and coaches also paid tribute. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver would release an official statement online about Sager, which read in part, "I, along with the entire NBA family, am deeply saddened by the passing of Craig Sager. Craig was as vital to the NBA as the players and coaches. A true original and an essential voice on Turner Sports NBA coverage for 26 seasons, Craig chronicled some of the most memorable moments in league history and was a ubiquitous presence with his splashy suits and equally colorful personality." Greg Popovich would be interviewed prior to a Spurs game versus the Suns on the same day that Sager passed away. He would give remarks paying tribute to Sager while also providing condolences to the Sager family. Many outside of the basketball world would pay tribute to Sager after his death. Notable examples include Canadian musical artist Drake, Hank Aaron, rapper Lil Wayne, and professional wrestler John Cena. Joe Biden would release a statement about Sager on Twitter, stating, "Craig Sager died as he lived, with courage, passion, and perseverance. Fearless and hopeful, a real hero." U.S. President Barack Obama also would release remarks on Twitter about Sager after his death, stating, "The suit said it all, colorful, fun, a little outlandish. That's what sports should be. Thanks, Craig Sager. We'll all miss you." Prior to a Golden State Warriors game versus the New York Knicks on the day that Sager passed away, the people in the stadium would take some of the pregame time paying respects to Sager. Steve Kerr, in the center of the basketball court surrounded by Knicks and Warriors players, would make reminiscing remarks about Sager, talking about Sager's compassion for others and love for sports. Steve Kerr served as an analyst for TNT before becoming a head coach. After his speech about Sager, the crowd in the stadium observing would give Kerr a standing ovation, including players, cheerleaders, stadium staff members, and NBA referees. A memorial service for Craig Sager was held on the morning of December 20, 2016, at Mount Bethel United Church in Marietta, Georgia. The service was hosted and led by Reverend Randy Mickler. It was attended by Sager's family and many across the world of professional basketball, including Adam Silver and Greg Popovich, who flew in to pay his respects before a scheduled game against the Houston Rockets that night in Houston. Many mourners wore colorful and expressive clothing reminiscent of Sager's style instead of traditional dark colors like black or gray. For example, Charles Barkley wore a bright red shirt, Ernie Johnson wore multicolored shoes, and NBA Hall of Famer Reggie Miller wore a brightly colored purple jacket. Even Reverend Mickler wore a purple shirt and vibrant jacket in respect of Sager. Ernie Johnson, Sager's daughter Casey, and Craig Jr. were noted speakers at the service. Renowned gospel singer Yolanda Adams sang 2 songs at the service. After his death, the NBA created the Sager Strong Award to honor him. It is an award given out at the annual NBA award show to an individual who has been a trailblazer while exemplifying courage, faith, compassion, and grace. Some people were given the award in different years, including Monty Williams in 2017, Dikembe Mutombo in 2018, and Robin Roberts in 2019. On the 1-year anniversary of his death in 2017, the Houston Rockets paid tribute to Sager in a game against the Spurs. Sager's widow, Stacy, along with many of Sager's friends and family, were in attendance. Before the game, Sager's 12-year-old daughter Riley made a $5,000 pregame first shot. This money, which was raised as part of a traditional event at the stadium, would be donated to the Sager Strong Foundation. A tribute video for Sager was played during a first-quarter timeout. In 2018, news reports surfaced that Craig Sager had changed his will to divert his inheritance from his children from his first marriage to his second wife Stacy back in 2015. Sager reportedly signed the documents on June 5, 2015, the day after Craig Jr. had undergone an apheresis, an operation that removes a person's blood so that specific blood components such as white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets, so it can be transplanted. The apheresis that Craig Jr. underwent was a part of the second stem cell transplant for his father. Stacey Sager was accused of playing a role influencing Craig Sager to make the change in his will. Craig's daughter Casey publicly accused that Stacey had cheated with Craig Sager while Sager was still married to his first wife Lisa. Casey also publicly stated that Stacey had allegedly prevented her from seeing her father in person in his final days. Despite the endeavor between Stacey and Craig's children, Casey and Craig had stated that they did not want to contest the new will.